Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Michael from Mickey Lens Media, and today we'll be doing all our edits in Photoshop. So quickly, let's drag this image right here and drop it into Photoshop. And once that is done, because it's a raw image, Camera Raw is going to open up in Photoshop. And once that happens, we do our basic adjustment from our basic slider right here. We can pull in our blacks and pull out our shadows a little bit to compensate for it. So we are going to pull up the texture a little bit and then pull up our clarity slider and our dehaze. We are going to take it up as well. Now we can see these are before and these are after. These are before and these are after, with a little adjustment of the sliders right here. A lot has happened to the image, so let's go down a little bit. Now we can come to our color grade right here, and to the shadows let's add a little bit of blues to it, right? And for the mid tone, let's make it a little warm, right? So for the highlight, again, let's add a little blue to it, right? So let's further go down again. Let's come to our calibration right here. So for the calibration, we are going to take out the reds out of the image a little bit, and then we are going to also take out a little bit of blues, sorry, a little bit of green, and we are going to take away a little bit of blue as well, right? Just so the image is looking a lot calm, right? Now with these few sliders, let's hit open. So now Photoshop has opened the image properly. Now we can go further and see how we can edit this picture and do our Alright, first let's crop this image into what we want. Alright, so let's do this. Alright, so what we can do is let's zoom into this image a little bit. Now that we're here, so today we'll be using our patch tool right here. Now all you have to do is circle the spot you want to remove and then drag it to a place that's close to it, just so Photoshop uses that part to replace the texture around that area, right? So let's duplicate this just so we work on the fresh layer, right? So let's try not to go too far from where we're meant to be, so the texture are not so different from what we have, right? So So you just keep going, try to take your time with the process, right? So just keep at it until you're satisfied with what your image looks like, right? So alright, so these are before and these are after, these are before and these are after, right? So further, now we are going to change this brush to we are going to use our spot healing brush tool. You click and drag, right, to take out that stray hair, right? Alright, so alright, so these are before and these are after, these are before and these are after, right? So you can see that the skin for the most part is being taken care of, right? So okay, let's just further crop this in just so we have minimal part of the skin to work with, right? So I don't want to make the tutorial too long, right? So let's keep this precise, right? So let's hit okay. So we're working on basically the face, right? So alright, so right now let's go in with our frequency separation action, right? So I'll be using, for the most part, 10 typically works for me for the kind of camera that I use. So I like to use 10 for the most part of my images, right? So right now we'll be using our mixer brush, and then let our wet be at 30, our load at 20, our mix at 40, and our flow at 25, our smoothing is at 3%. Please note, guys, that using a graphics tablet, so sometimes what you're using to work might differ. So just play around with these figures right here until you're actually satisfied with what it's giving you. Personally, I still change them and tweak them around. However works for me is totally fine. I think however works for you too should be fine. So that being said, I like going with my brush in circular motions, as it helps me blend all the parts of the skin, whichever angle the pose is going. When you're going in circular motions, it just helps smoothing it seamlessly, right? So that's that. So alright, so you just keep brushing it, right? So these are before and these are after right now. Before frequency separation is after frequency separation, right? So if it's tutorial sake, right? So let's quickly dive into our dodge and burn action right here. So we have our dodge and burn. Alright, so for this we'll be using a brush tool. using our brush tool, our opacity at 100 and our flow at 30. Sorry, we're taking it from 30 to 2%, right? Just so we are able to load it to our satisfaction, right? So basically, in dodge and burn, what we do is we dodge the highlights and we burn the contours, right? So we're going to dodge the highlighted part of the image right here with white as our foreground color, because in Photoshop white reveals and black hides. So we try to take note of that, so it won't be like we're trying to do something and it's not working, right? So if for any reason what you're painting is not coming up, just try to check and be sure that we are using white as our foreground color, right? So right now we are going to highlight underneath the eyes. You know, that's the makeup artist, this is the part they highlight for the most part, so we are going to still stick by that rule. Alright, so basically that's it. So right now we are going to further highlight this part just so it gives us that kind of shine, right? So this is before and this after, this before and this after. So what I like to do is I like to hold my alt and click on the mask right here, so we have everything that we've painted in loaded up. So we're going to come to our blur, Gaussian blur, and then we are going to take up the radius again to see how the edges of whatever we have painted is faded out, so it gives us that smooth transition so we don't have sharp edges. So we hit OK. Now you can click anywhere for your image to come back. So this before and this after, it seems a lot more subtle, right? So let's come to our burn layer. So like I said, for the burn we are going to be burning the contoured part of the image, right? So yeah, all this part are the parts that the makeup artist have actually contoured, right? So basically for that's what we're going to do, and we're going to hold alt again and click on the mask to load our selection. So we're going to come to filter, blur and Gaussian blur, and our radius that we chose the other time is still here, so we can just leave it at that and just hit OK. And then once you click on any part of the layout right here, your image is going to come back up. So this is what we have actually dodged and burned. So this before dodge and burn, and this after dodge and burn, this before dodge and burn, and this after dodge and burn. So at this part we are going to start our color grading process. First, what we are going to do is we are going to come to our levels adjustment and pull in our blacks a little bit, yeah, and then pull in our white also, and then we're going to come to our color balance and take it up a little bit and add a little blue to the image, and then add a little bit of cyan also to the image, just so alright, I think that's fair. So if we have that for the eyes, let's come to our black and white adjustment layer, increase the red just so it gets whitish. So we're going to hit Ctrl I to invert it, and then let's zoom in a little bit closer to the image, right? So we're going to come with our brush tool, and for this time we're going to change our flow from 2 to like say maybe 33, and we're going to reduce our brush size with our left and right bracket keys, and then paint in the white into the eyes. It seems a lot more natural. That's why I like this particular step. There are different ways of doing it. So alright, so let's zoom back out. So this is before and this is after. See the eyes a little bit more whitish. Now we are going to bring down the tone of this image to give us that sweet melanin look, right? So first we are going to come to our black and white adjustment layer again. So but this time we are going to leave it there. We are going to change our blending mode to multiply. You can see how dark it is right now. That's not what we want, so we are going to come to our opacity right here and reduce it, right? So we are going to reduce it, let's say yeah, 30 works. Then we're still going to go into it again, and then this time we're still going to change it to say let's do overlay. So we have these shines, right? That's why we are doing this. So we are still going to drop down the opacity to like say 20 this time, right? So we see what we have. See what we have, right? So we are still going to go into it with another black and white adjustment layer, and this time we are going to take it to multiply again. So now we are going to reduce this to like say 20% works. Alright, so we have 20% right now. So you can see this image is giving us that sweet melanin look, right? But then we're not quite there yet. So let's hit Ctrl Shift Alternate E to create a stamp visible layer above everything we have. So let's put this in the group because I don't like the way it's all littered everywhere. So let's hit Ctrl G and then we'll rename it color, right? So okay, let's say color grade, right? So now for this one let's take it to camera raw. Let's come to our filter, camera raw filter. Alright, so now we are in camera raw filter. So let's go back to our basic tab right here. So first I'd like to pull back the temperature and cool it a little bit with -3, right? So we are going to, for that, let's go down to our calibration right here. So now for this calibration we are going to take out part of the reds, just a tiny bit, right? So we are going to take out the greens as well, and alright, so we are going to take out the blues as well. Now you see, for when we started, that was why I pulled it down a little bit, just so the image is not so, the colors are not so sharp, right? So right, so let's add a little bit of orange. We're adding okay, let's add up a little bit, like say +4 is fine. So this is our before and these are after, is our before and these are after, right? So I think we've really done a lot to this image. So okay, let's hit okay. Alright, so okay, let's kick it back to camera raw. I would want to reduce, let's go back to our basic settings right here. So I want to reduce the saturation a little bit, and that's perfect. So this is what we have, right? So now for the most part this is what we have. So if we feel like we've actually done this process too much and we want to reduce it or something, we just come to the opacity right here and then we decrease it, right? Can you see? Yeah, so we actually can take it up to where we think it's perfect for us. So you have control over what you have done, right? That's why we're actually putting on a different layer right here, so you have control over whatever you are doing. So if you feel like you want it to be really deep, then we can have it all the way up, but if you feel like we want to drop it down a little bit, then we can have this, right? So I think for this particular image I would want to do maybe 80%, right? So this is before and this is after. So okay, I think I actually like it all puppy, so let's do, yeah, let's leave it at 92%. I think I like this. Yeah, so I think that's what we have. So for the most part, that's how to actually do this, get to this melanin tone with just Photoshop and nothing else, right? Thank you guys so much for staying tuned.